journey through the Big Finish main range with the next lot of 4 stories. So, yeah, let's just get into it. No mucking about, no preamble today. So we're starting off with Ish, which is written by Phil Pascoe. It's a 6th Doctor and Peri story. It's been a while since we had a 6th Doctor and Peri story. There's the last one, Whispers of Terror. There's got to be one in between, right? There might not be. I can't recall if there was. Anyway, it's a 6th Doctor and Peri story. And this one is interesting. I listened to this a while ago, about a week or 2 ago, so I'm going from memory a bit here, but it is it's like the Doctor and Peri are on this, like, it's almost like a convention for a dictionary and for like words and stuff. I'm not sure. And there's this like AI sort of character called Book who knows all the words in existence, and he's like a living dictionary, a sentient dictionary. But there is this sort of language terrorist, and there's this sort of virus in the word ish, and then it becomes one of the cliffhangers is this like massive crowd of people who are all just saying the word ish, and it kind of robs you of your language and your ability to communicate verbally, and that's all you can say. I think this is a stronger premise than execution. Not that the execution was bad necessarily, but I think the premise of a virus within a word and that affecting people, I think is really fun. The way they play with it as the story goes on, where they sort of they're trying to obviously defeat the threat, and they are given sort of the protection from this ish virus, and so every time they say the word ish, it gets bleeped for us, the listener. I thought that was a very fun kind of way of we're protected as an audience from the virus as well. So that was very fun, and I think the idea of playing with words and playing with language in the audio medium is really clever. It's, like Whispers of Terror, which played with audio. I think when you get an audio story that plays with the medium, that's a lot of fun. But overall, I felt that the story itself, not a bad story by any means, but I was a bit, I think that the concept is stronger than the execution. I think that the idea of it is really clever and ingenious, but I think that actually, then in practice it's just not the strongest. It's not the worst story, but it's, I don't know how you would improve on it. I did enjoy it, and I think that the idea of it, I was looking forward to this one because the title of it really intrigued me, and it sort of delivered on that sense, but not my favourite story. As I say, I'm going a little bit off memory with this one, but I thought the side characters were decent. The character of Book, and I think the idea of, as I say, the idea of the virus within the word and within the language, I think is kind of a fascinating concept. But I think the story itself was possibly a little pedestrian, aside from the wrinkles of the concept itself. So not a bad story, but not a fantastic one. But yeah, then we move on to The Rapture, which is written by, let me just check, I want to say Justin Richards, but I might be sort of making that up. Bear with me. Joseph Lidster, not Justin Richards, Joseph Lidster, which this one is about. It's set on Ibiza. In I think sort of 99 or sort of as the sort of present day ish, or a little bit before present day, as in terms of when the story was released. I think it's late 90s, and it's about this nightclub on Ibiza called The Rapture, which is like the best nightclub. Everyone's raving about it. They talk about having like spiritual experiences there. It's got a cameo from real life radio presenter and DJ Tony Blackburn as himself. Well, as an unnamed DJ, but basically himself. And it's also got a little wrinkle in there for the character of Ace, although at this point she's calling herself McShane, which I think is a bit silly. I think she gets over that eventually, right? But currently she's calling herself McShane or Dorothy. She's not calling herself Ace, basically. A slight spoiler for this one, just to talk about it, not about the story itself, but there's a character called Liam in this who reveals himself to be Ace's long-lost brother, and that's the whole kind of an element of it. I really enjoyed The Rapture. I did have to I had to split it up, basically. So I listened to the first 3 parts, and then I was listening on headphones, and my headphones started dying, basically. So I wasn't able to finish the part 4 for about a day and a half, because I just couldn't get, because of stuff. Tried listening to it again, but I was very tired and fell asleep, so it took me a while to get to part 4. But what I will say is that although it had been I think by the time I probably got to part 4, it had been, I think, a couple of days. I didn't feel lost. I didn't feel like, wait, what's going on? I don't remember. Some of the specifics I didn't quite recall. But the flow of the story didn't really feel massively interrupted, even though it was for me. Because generally I listen to these stories pretty much all in one go, or with a little break in between, but I listened to them pretty much straight through, and I couldn't do that with this story. But I got to part 4 a day and a bit later and absolutely felt comfortable with where I was, which for me is a testament to the strength of the story, in that the characters and the location and the story of it was very well defined. You know, you've got great side characters. You've got these 2 brothers, Gabriel and Jude, who kind of are posing as not even necessarily posing. They're presenting themselves as angels. And you've got, of course, the character of Liam. You've got Katriana, who is his sort of friend. Possibly there's a relationship there, but possibly not. And she's got her own sort of stuff. She's a character with, you know, mental issues that they touch upon. There's a great sequence with her and one of the brothers, which is kind of trippy and weird, but really good. And yeah, it was just a really strong story, which I think the Seventh Doctor stuff has been pretty strong overall, if I recall. And yeah, this kind of continued that. I really enjoyed The Rapture, and as I say, even though I had to split it up by a couple of days, I didn't feel lost, I didn't feel confused when I came back to it. I just carried on with the story, and it had retained in my memory, which, you know, might seem like faint praise. You know, it's only a couple of days, how can it go that quickly? But I do find sometimes with the audio, because there's no visuals there to go, oh, what's that one? Oh, it's that thing, and there's a visual reminder. Like, because it's just audio, a story will stay in your mind on the strength of the writing, and this one stayed in my mind, and I can still recall it now, and it's been a couple of days, about a week or so since I listened to it, week and a bit. So yeah, this was a really, really strong story. I really enjoyed it. I like Joseph Lister's work. I can't recall all of his other stuff, but I seem to recall I like his Doctor Who work, and it's just nice to continue with the Seventh Doctor stuff being really strong. I think, it's true of his TV stories, it's true of his audio stories. He's got a lot of strong material. It's a story that you wouldn't ever do on television, because it does talk about drugs and alcohol and sex, casual sex. They're on Ibiza. It's a story you would only tell for a little bit more of a mature audience who are a bit older and who are actively buying the stories you're selling them, as opposed to the main show, which is a family kid show, and it's, with the license fee, it's you don't have to pay to watch Doctor Who, really, but you do have to pay to listen to Big Finish, and so it's automatically targeting a slightly older audience, and this story takes advantage of that. You wouldn't ever do it on TV, or if you did, you'd have to really neuter it, and that kind of wouldn't work. But yeah, a really strong one. I enjoyed this. Then we move on to The Sandman, which is a Sixth Doctor and Evelyn story. And this one is written by Simon A. Forward. And this one sees the Doctor take a bit of a villainous approach. It's a little bit like the Invasion of Time in that sense, I suppose. Because the Doctor is the Sandman to this race of people who don't have a home planet. They're just travelling through the stars. And he has kind of become this legend of the Sandman. And they kind of live in fear of him. They can't look at him. And so he arrives to kind of almost check up on them, I think. This one wasn't as strong. I thought the concept of the Doctor being the Sandman and him being almost this kind of almost villainous presence was very interesting. I enjoyed the fact that Evelyn kind of doesn't, like, he's doing this big sort of grandiose character, and Evelyn's like, yeah, alright, mate. She kind of doesn't buy into it at all. I do really like Evelyn as a companion. But again, some of the specifics of this, and I can, if you've listened to a lot of these Big Finish reviews I've been doing, you'll find this is possibly a bit of a common complaint, is that some of the specifics of the story kind of elude me, and I kind of get a bit lost. And maybe that's a me problem, it's the way I'm listening to the audios, but I often find that a really strong premise is a good hook in, but then sometimes I find the stories themselves can be a bit complicated. I think with audio, a simpler story is not the worst idea. That's not to say you can't tell more complex stories on audio and it be successful. The Chimes of Midnight is somewhat of a complex story. Spare Parts, and they're great audios, but with this, it started out with a really interesting premise and then kind of devolved into a more generic story, and I think that for me was the kind of, I didn't quite get it. There's flashbacks and stuff which I'm not sure I really kept track of very well, And I just think it's a really strong starting premise, and then for it to just devolve into, we're gonna kill him anyway. It's like, oh, okay, well, what was the point? Not an awful story, but similar to Ish for me, I think. In that the starting premise was good, but the story itself was a bit like, And then finally, for today, we're moving on to The Church and the Crown, which I listened to this morning. A Fifth Doctor, Peri and Erimem story. This one is written by Gavin Scott and Mark Wright. I really enjoyed Erimem in the previous story, Eye of the Scorpion, and I continue to enjoy it here. This one is a pure historical, which generally I've been quite enjoying. The Big Finish pure historicals, the Marian Conspiracy, the Fires of Vulcan, really strong stories, and yeah, this one was good as well. It kind of does the Black Orchid thing, where you've got Peri, who's got a striking resemblance to Queen Anne, which is, you would think would be a weird thing to do on audio, two characters who look the same, because in most instances they also sound the same, but they're able to get around that in this story because Nicola Bryant obviously plays Peri, but she also plays Queen Anne, but when she's playing Queen Anne, she just drops the American accent because it's not a real accent. So Peri is American and Queen Anne is English, even though she's French, she's English. And it's a fun chance for Nicola Bryant to get to play a non-American character, which I think is sort of the reason why you do that here. But Peri's got quite a fun dynamic with the Fifth Doctor. It's a lot more playful than with the Sixth Doctor. And then you throw Erimem in the mix, and they're kind of like just good friends. They're like giggling schoolgirls almost, which is not necessarily a dynamic that I would love, but it really works here. Erimem really takes charge and uses her initiative and her background as a pharaoh really well in this story. Peri's got a lot of agency. The Fifth Doctor doesn't get loads to do in this, but I think the strength of his two companions here really makes up for it. It's not, I think of the pure historicals we've had so far in the main range, this is probably my least favourite, but I really enjoyed the other two so much that that's kind of by the by, to be honest. It's not really a negative. I really enjoy this. I really enjoyed the side characters, and it's a bit silly and it's a bit funny. It's a bit dark in some places, but it's got a sense of humour about it. And this was a lot of fun. And at the end, Erimem gets to join the TARDIS properly, and yeah, she's a character I really like. I'm very much enjoying the Big Finish original companions so far. Obviously Evelyn is a real highlight. And it's, we've only had Erimem for 2 stories, it's early days, but I'm really enjoying her so far. I know the next 7th Doctor story introduces Hex. I'm looking forward to that, so yeah, a solid run, these 4. I think my favourite is probably The Rapture, then Church and the Crown, and then the other 2, the Collins stories, are both fine. But yeah, I'm enjoying the run so far. Happy to keep going. We're getting close to number 50, at which point I might stop these. I'm not sure what I'm going to do there in terms of, am I going to continue to 100 or stop at Zagreus? I don't know. I'm going to cross that bridge when I get to it. But these were fun, so yeah, thank you for watching, thank you for listening, thank you for your time. Have you listened to these stories? If so, what did you think of them? Do you like them? Let me know. Like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't. And see you all next time for the next run of stories, starting with Bang Bang a Boom. Thank you and goodbye.